The price of gold and silver has dropped quite a lot in the last few weeks, hasn't it? So what does that mean for the future? In a world where cost of living is squeezing a lot of people's purses, is now an opportunity too good to be missed to buy more gold and silver? Today, I'm going to share my top hints, tricks and tips and thoughts on the future and whether or not it is now that you need to start stacking more. Everybody, Backyard Bullion here, and a very warm welcome to you all joining me for another precious metal ramble. Now, we've seen gold and silver come down in price over the last few weeks, which is the old stacker quandary, a great thing. We always love it when our investments go down in price because it means we can buy more at a cheap price. Is that really the case? Is it now? Is now the time to get more of this stuff into the stack? We're going to ask that question and more, look a little bit about what affects my thinking in this whole world of stacking and collecting and buying gold and silver and where things might end up. Now, do bear in mind, I can't foretell the future and nobody else can, so don't take too much stock in mine or anyone else's video or podcast or big blog post that the world is about to end and silver and gold are going to go to the moon. Stack slow and steady, that's what I say, and you'll be fine, just fine in the end. But there are some bigger picture things that I do want to address, like interest rates. Where are they going to be? Who knows? It's an interesting time. We've seen perhaps a leveling off now of the interest rate rises. We are at a point perhaps where things might even go down for interest rates. Where are we with industrial uses for gold and silver? Those are questions for me to ask. We've heard so much in the past about how solar energy is going to be the thing that catapults silver into the stratosphere, halfway to the moon maybe. That's not materialized in any time in the recent past, and perhaps it won't for the near future as well. With the world the way it is, let's have a recap. You know, we've been through quite the last 3.5 years. So, of course, we've experienced the beautiful COVID and everything that happened with that in terms of lockdowns and basically quantitative easing. So the printing of money. And, you know, I am not going to sit here and say that it doesn't have anything to do with the world now. You know, we have this ridiculously large supply of money in cash that has just materialized out of nothing. And that has had a very big impact on the world and the way that we value cash. And I think that's reflected quite honestly in the upticks in gold and silver prices. At the start of the pandemic, we saw gold and silver, in fact, drop. Silver even more so than gold. Of course, there's always the arguments about physical and premium, and that was down to the, of course, this physical supply chain, the logistics happening in a world that's locked down. So that's all behind us, and I think the world is in a different place than it was back then, and it will continue to recover from that situation. But there is no doubting that currencies are a lot weaker than they once were. But I think that's already been factored into a lot of the kind of global, business is as business as usual right now. Are we still on a downward spiral because of the consequences of all of that quantitative easing and creation of money? Yes, there will still be downwards. I don't think we have reached that rock bottom yet for gold and silver prices. Rock bottom for physical currency, fiat currency, the thing that we use every day in our bank accounts. And that therefore means we haven't really seen the full effects on gold and silver. But we are, I think, a long way from where the doom and gloom might have been. Because a lot's happened since that. We, of course, have seen a huge war happening in Eastern Europe. And that has had its effects, of course, in the world and the global supply of various different products, and interest rates continuing to go up because of the consequences of a lot of that, and cost of living then biting and rearing its ugly head for people all around the world. And that has caused, I think, quite a shift in the world of gold and silver. Now, in terms of, this capsule, very difficult. In terms of like how the cost of living has affected bullion buying. So I think personally, it doesn't seem to have had a massive impact. There's still a lot of people buying gold and silver, and one would argue, in fact, that there are more people buying gold and silver right now than there were a year ago, and it will continue to increase as time goes on, because there is no hiding from the fact that the world is different and money is very different from what it was a few years ago, and people are worried about it. And so cost of living is a thing, but there are a lot of people who are still happy to go and spend money on their gold and on their silver. There is no doubting that right now. All you've got to do is look at the popularity of various different social medias that's happened over the course of the last year and a half, 2 years, with Wall Street Silver. And even here on YouTube, we've seen this massive, massive, massive growth in channels, not just my own, but other channels too, with certain channels getting over 150,000 subscribers. It's certainly come to the fore a lot more than it has been in the past. So there will, I think, be a lot more people still looking to buy gold and silver over the course of the next couple of years. So what effect is that going to have on the market? Well, the thing is, right, silver certainly is basically unaffected by things like silver squeezes. We've come to know that. All you got to do is look at how the silver squeeze movements tried to squeeze silver, and it just didn't work. The big players in the market need to be there. They need, we need the Hunt brothers essentially again to even get close to something like that. And even then, it probably won't work. I can say that with 99.9% purity of accuracy, it won't work. We've seen it tried, it does not happen. So it's, I think, an interesting market for silver. Right now we are saying, as I said, the rise of solar hasn't really kind of risen and taken over the world. We're not seeing, acres and acres and acres, or not even acres, hectares of solar farms appearing in the deserts of, deserts of America, USA and everything. It's just not there yet. Maybe it will get there one day. But even so, I would like to think that silver and gold's future still lie against that real issue that we're having right now against currencies. And that's where you need to put your focus. So don't necessarily listen to all of the jazz and the humongous hype about gold and silver being this replacement for money. That's not where we'll be, but it will still hold value. One thing that is important to remember is that the money that you have is going to get you a certain amount of stuff. And if you lock that money away in gold and silver, in a few years' time, you'll get the same amount of stuff, but that fiat currency will be different. That's the whole point here. So you look back pre-COVID, I think I've got a coin in my box here, 2017, an ounce of gold, £1,015.60. And now an ounce of gold is 1,600, if you're lucky to buy it at that. 1523 spot price right now, so maybe call it 1575. That's a 570 odd pound increase in the price. Now, can you think back, sort of, when was that, 2017, could you buy £1,600 worth of stuff back then and get, £1,000 worth of stuff back then and get the same value for it now? Very unlikely. Everything's gone up. Cost of living has increased massively. So that's what happens for gold and silver. It just, over time, and a lot of people get this wrong because they go, silver is meant to keep up with inflation, but inflation is at 10% per year. And that's my Kermit the Frog impression, by the way. And, we're looking at gold and silver, they've come down. And you would look a year ago and you'd go, oh, well, hang on, there's been inflation of 10% in the last year, but gold hasn't gone up 10%. It's about a sort of a longer term period. It's about how that money transpires from one place in time to another over a longer period of time. You can't measure it over the course of single years. It has to be done over a longer period. You go back 20 years and gold was £500 an ounce. You go back 25 years to the beginning of the millennium and it was £280 an ounce, something ridiculous like that. So when Gordon Brown, our ex-Prime Minister, decided it would be a good opportunity to sell all the gold that the United Kingdom had. I think he might be regretting some of those decisions. But that is maybe the stacker's quandary. Right now, we are seeing prices dropping. Be a good time to look to buy. That said, there are a lot of people still selling their silver and gold right now, looking to, maybe actually make the cost of living something that they can cope with. There are a lot of people in trouble right now, and it's the same for some of the bigger world assets out there like bricks and mortar. With interest rates going up and the cost of living increasing, we do start to see a lot of people having to sell their homes. They can't afford them. Sell the assets, sell the car. You can't afford the car tax and the insurance and the petrol and the fuel to go in it. There are so many people out there in this world that are struggling. And unfortunately, that does mean that there will be opportunities for a lot of other people out there. So when you get big things like interest rates on mortgages rising again and remortgaging costs going up because the banks decide that they need to have a little bit more money in their coffers for reasons unknown to any godly soul on this planet. It can be very, very hard for people, and you do find a lot of houses then become available, sadly, and that is then an opportunity for somebody else. When suddenly a lot of houses come on the market that need to be sold in a hurry, the price goes down and we see the housing markets go down. So it's natural to see assets drop even when there are hard times out there, and it's important to remember that correlation with basically gold and silver. We're seeing hard times out there, and even though there are, and it's slightly different with gold and silver because of course it's a global larger market rather than a small macro sort of housing market, but the point is still valid that there are big institutions out there around the world that are facing issues and they need the cash, and maybe they need to liquidize some of their more protected investments. Of course, things, you don't make a loss on something until you realize that loss, and if you're on a position that's losing, and God knows I've got some stocks and shares right now that are currently sat at nasty losing positions, but you don't cash them out until it's the ready time for you. That might never come, and that's fine too. But for gold and silver, it's one of those really easy things to liquidate. You can buy back into gold and silver at another time at your convenience and choosing. Here, look, I don't. This is just a spot pricey type gold sovereign from a private mint. I don't mind holding it. So, it's a difficult time right now, and that certainly is reflected in the world of gold and silver. And the last sort of little bit I'll sort of finish with is in relation to the way that prices are going on secondhand markets. So for those that are watching to the end of the video, perhaps you're new to the channel. If you are, welcome to the Backyard Bullion Ramblers Club. I suppose I am as well, a super cool kid club member. Anyway, there are a lot of people looking to sell right now, and when they do sell, they have to price very competitively. Otherwise, they don't sell their items at all. And there are a lot of people right now who will have things listed up on eBay at high prices and it won't happen. Proof coins, for example, are struggling at the moment. There are a lot of proof coins out there that were traditionally a lot higher. So I can give examples of things like the Queen's Beast series. The 1 ounce silver proofs were at one point selling for 150 to 175 pounds, depending on some of their varieties. And now you're lucky if you get 100 out of them at that. So I think we're in this situation right now where if you're a buyer, there are certainly opportunities for people's rejected bits of gold and silver or coins. So definitely a market not to ignore. Anyway, that's it from me. Thanks all for watching. We'll see you on the next video. And as always, a huge thank you to my Backyard Bullion Ramblers. See you next time. As always, please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.